Welcome back to part 2 of lesson 3. Part 1 concluded with this slide of fractional symbols. If the line segment below represents 5/6, then how would you represent 1? Just a reminder, you will take EDC 108, which is educational technology, so you'll learn a lot of different technology tools. This is pretty basic. This is still a PowerPoint slide. So all I did was I created inserted a shape, and I just put the outline of the shape, filled it in white, so that I knew visually that I had to pull up, pull down in this case, right? So that I could show each of the steps. Now, depending on the size of your classroom and how many students, you may choose to do each of these one slide. So one slide, much bigger visual so that the children in the back can see, another slide, and another slide. So this could expand to 3 slides depending on needs. This activity tried to help us focus on measuring of the fraction numeral. So again, we're going to do a reminder here. The numerator is the number of measuring units in the quantity of stuff. 2, numerator. Denominator, down low, is the size of the measuring unit. Right? If 18 symbols below represent 1 4/5, then how would you represent 2/5? I want you to hit pause and I illustrate your steps, your process. Speaking out loud, what you would verbally say to help your children go step by step, and then come back when you're ready. Okay, so here we have 18 circles representing 1 4/5. So my first thought was, if 1 4/5 can be made into a fraction of 9/5, and that equals 18/10, because that's how many circles I counted, right? So for me, the thought process here was, if I counted out each of the circles, 18, right? Didn't need to count because my equation said so. My question said so. 18 circles, right? So if 1 4/5 equals 9/5, and I see that 9 times 2 is 18, or 18 is divisible by 9 twice, then I can create 18/10. So 18/10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9/5. So I created that circle. Then my next step and thought process here was, how do I represent 2/5? Well, 2/5 can be made into 4/10. So now I have a common denominator of 10. Then my next thought was, okay, now I have 2. So if I have 2 groups, but I'm not looking for a group of 9 and 9, I'm looking for that 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And so I circled that 10. 10 we know represents 1. 10 over 10 equals 1, and 2/5 equals 4/10. So what do you think my next step of illustration might be? Okay, so if I have that circled, 10 circles equals 1. So I isolate 1, circling a cluster of 10 in green. That's 10/10 equals 1. And 2/5 equals 4/10. That's indicated then with the blue dots. So that's what my representation of 2/5 is. Right? Again, how you do this process may be different, and that's wonderful. Let's bring it to class and share it. If the rectangle below represents 1 1/2, then how would you represent 1 3/4? Take time to consider how you describe and illustrate the steps for this problem. And what materials could you employ to help illustrate? There's no answer here. So I want you, again, it's really helpful to hit pause and do your illustration, create those 3 blank rectangles, and try to work this out. Here's another one. If the number line below represents 2 2/3, then how would you represent 1? Again, think about how you would describe and illustrate, and what materials could you employ to help illustrate the steps and have it really be concrete for the children. For mixed fractions, there are 2 different measuring units, but the improper fraction form tells you the same thing as before. So 2 2/3 equals 8/3. How do I get there? 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. 8 is the numerator. It tells you the number of measuring units. 3 is the denominator. It tells you the size of the measuring unit. 2 2/3 is 8/3. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. Okay, write yourself down another one. Try 2 6/7. What do you come up with? Okay, try to really challenge yourself until you feel comfortable with the conversion to improper fractions and also the language of numerator, denominator, the descriptions of each of those vocabulary words. Thanks for tuning in to this part 2. If you have specific questions on lesson 3, the overview or the resources, anything else you've looked at prior to class, please bring them to class and we'll share it with everybody. Take care.